Welcome to the TMC Newsroom. My name is Rich Tehrani. Thanks for watching us today. On our program is Blake Carlson. He's a VP of Data Center Software at Avocent. And we are at Interop, New York, 2010, second day of the show. Blake, how are you?
Pretty good, Rich. How you doing?
Great. So let's talk. What's new at the company?
So we're actually here at this show to announce the launch of a new product and platform called Trellis, which is really an aggregation of hardware, software, and services around the notion of managing your physical infrastructure. And what we've seen in the market for years coming from our Liebert, our ASCO, our Albert brands under the Emerson Network Power Division was the need for the facilities infrastructure to be managed holistically and in tandem with the IT environment. So we're seeing that gap. We want to bridge it with our tools. Emerson's been on a buying spree over the past few years to acquire technologies and to level out the playing field, if you will, of hardware and software. And we're announcing at this show the Trellis product, family of products and platform that pull it all together in terms of this new physical infrastructure.
And what sorts of problems will that solve for customers?
You know, it's interesting because there's two big challenges that we've seen in the data center in the past couple of years. One would be the notion of complexity, which has certainly been ushered in by virtualization, the decoupling of the software from the hardware. Add to the fact that power is becoming more expensive, and then you add the second element, which is the idea of the rate of change, how fast you have to move loads around. And what we're really seeing is that customers have, or data center managers, have really allocated about 20% overhead to allow for overages. And what we've noticed is that if we can garner and start to secure, just pull back about 10% of that overhead and maximize or optimize the deployment, there's about an aggregate savings of $10 billion in terms of spend. So that starts
across
to make
the US, across the world?
Across globally, across a data center deployment. So that starts to then be a sizable enough number that a CIO takes notice. And so what we want to do is we want to go optimize not only your physical infrastructure and facilities, which is really your power and your cooling, but also optimize that with your compute, which is your server storage and network, and have a holistic single source of truth in terms of data and in terms of how I can then optimize my environment.
So we're really talking about a $10 billion arbitrage opportunity here.
Yeah,
something like that.
You could say that. I mean, I think what we're really talking about is the ability to have hooks into all your devices, grab that data, aggregate that data across a hardware infrastructure, and then be able to consume that data in a way that allows optimization. So where we play is that physical space, which is from all the disparate devices in the data center up to the hypervisor. And what we're trying to do is manage that with our Trellis family of products. But then there's another byproduct. The byproduct then is the framework vendors like the OpenViews, the Tivolis, the CAs, the BMCs, and the BMS vendors, the Siemens, the Honeywells, et cetera, the Johnson Controls. They can then take that data and then optimize their stacks in terms of where you put loads, application positioning, all of those elements. So it's really about the data, and we think that we're in a position to be able to provide a holistic aggregation of this data, whether it's through our tools or third-party tools, but provide that common UI, center of truth, if you will, so that you can then reach an optimized state.
So what sort of response are you hearing from customers? Because that message is obviously important, but it's also a complex one.
You know, we've been selling piecemeal offerings. We acquired a company called Aperture, which is the leading vendor in this segment in terms of asset visualization through optimization. We've got a bunch of monitoring tools through our Inform under Liebert and our SiteScan products in the facilities environment. The customers are saying, I love what you can do for me at that level. Pull it all together. Give me that aggregation so that I can now start to move loads around and I can get more efficiency and availability out of my existing investments. And so we're basically in a race to get those products out, and that's what we've announced here at the show.
That's great. So what can we see or expect to see in the future from the company?
You know, a lot more software and services. I think Emerson has done a really good job selling really big iron hardware into the facility side. We've made some key acquisitions to have some credibility, more credibility in the IT side. And what we're really doing is we're putting a framework around all this in terms of software and services to provide a holistic management stack that can be readily deployed, purchased piecemeal or in aggregate, that can allow then a customer to get more ROI and more benefit out of an existing environment.
That's great. Well, thanks for being on the program.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate your time.
It's great.